Hey, so I recently got a question from my friend Adam asking the difference between fiber and implicitly other ad mediators versus a direct network providers. And it's a little bit of a nuanced question. And really, the root of the question is what's the difference between a mediator and an ad provider? And I'd love to just provide you with a motivating example so that you really understand the difference between those two. So let's say that there's a shoe company that wants to sell ads for shoes. Okay, so they might purchase from Google, which is an ad provider. They might purchase 1,000 ads. And so now Google has to show ads to people. Okay, there's 1,000 different ads that they need to show for the shoe company. Maybe it's a little video. And separate from that, I have a video game that I'm making, and in my game there's a loading screen where I play an ad. And so when I play that ad, I can integrate Google's SDK and I could say, hey, Google, do you have any inventory for me? And they're like, yeah, we've got these ads for shoes. Why don't you do one of those? And then Google will show the ad for the shoes through maybe one of their SDKs that I integrate into my Unity Android iOS application. However, so that's very simple, right? There's a salesman, he has inventory, and I sell it for him. However, this model is reductive, right? Because it has become much more complicated, and we've seen games return much higher eCPM, a lot more money, by integrating ad mediators, which is sort of a twist on this concept. It's sort of one more level of complexity. And so what an ad mediator does is they essentially bargain for not for inventory, but for, let's say, store space for the inventory that different purveyors of ads are trying to sell. So that looks a little bit more something like this. Instead of going to Google, I go to the ad salesman named HeyZap or Fiber. And I go to the Fiber man and I say, hey, Fiber man, I need an ad. And so then the Fiber man will go to Google and he'll say, hey, I need an ad. But instead of Google just giving him an ad, he'll say, how much money will you give me if I sell that ad? Basically, how much is the kickback? Then he'll go to Facebook and he'll say, hey, how much money will you sell me an ad for? Then he'll go to any other provider, right? So that's the difference. He finds you the best deal for your eCPM, whichever ad is going to give you the most money, and then that is the ad that he gives to you to play in your game. Right? So the idea is we've introduced a salesman. That way your app can now service many different ad providers, not just Google ads, not just Facebook ads, but it could be many different sources, right? And the way that it usually looks is if you go into one of these mediator platforms, so for example, here's the Fiber interface, it's usually a waterfall model where you can have the different ad networks installed. And what you do here is you can also set the CPM. So CPM is basically how much money you get, and you could set this to auto, where they'll use machine learning in order to figure out what's going to be the expectation for you, or you could even set it manually. So what that would mean is it would be something like, hey, I would like to ask Unity for an ad, but if they're not willing to give me at least $5 for this ad, then I am not going to accept it. Just go to the next provider. So you can manually tune that if you want, or you could set it to auto and have the app do it for you. Right, and so that's really the benefit of using a service like Fiber or IronSource or any of these other different ad mediators, is they can serve as middlemen, which can allow you to support many different providers. And there's one other huge deal in working with these companies, and that's that they are more incentivized to build out and support SDKs for particular integrations. So for example, my friend was having some trouble working with the Google integration for his Unity game, right? And so he's using the latest version of Unity as well, which is likely going to have a lot of bugs. Well, Google is normally pretty slow to fix something like that. Instead, it's these ad mediators that are going to find the latest integrations that work for their platform, and they're going to bundle those SDKs all together with their SDK in such a way that it hopefully can just be one download. And in some cases, it's one download for the SDK. I think Fiber works this way, where it's one download for the SDK, and then it's additional support downloads for additional ad networks that you want to support. But some of these ad mediators are actually really nice, where they have just one kind of fat SDK with all of the different ad networks integrated inside. So you only need to install one SDK. So there's a lot of different ways to do that, but that is essentially the difference between an ad mediator and an ad provider, and also the value proposition of going to a mediator versus going directly to an ad provider. Thanks.